What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In the last couple of videos, I got the rear aprons for the Evo 10 painted, and then I also finished painting the front lip in the last video. As you saw in the intro there, I had quite a few runs in the clear coat. I did not have any issues with the base or primer, but the way that I masked off the garage, it was horrible lighting, and I could not see that clear coat being laid down. Luckily, I did not have any issues with runs on the aprons. However, I did get some dirt and dust nibs in there. I'm gonna sand those out. I'm gonna get all of these runs sanded out on the front lip and then get both of these pieces fully installed on the Evo. Stay tuned. So like I said, I did get a few dirt and dust nibs. If you look close in there, I'm hoping that I can get enough light so that you can see some of that in there, but it should be very easy to sand out. And once I get them sanded out, I will polish them up as well, but I'm actually gonna save the aprons for last. I wanna get started on this front lip. I've still got it on the car. I just like coming out here and seeing it on here. Everything worked out really well. If you did see the last video, I had an issue with a little wave sitting right here. I had this thing mounted up on my refrigerator, and I think it just left a little pressure point. It's been there for a few months because I was getting ready to paint this thing. I am gonna go back over it again with my heat gun just to see if I can't mold it back down a little bit more, but it's really not that noticeable from a distance. It looks really good still. It's just one of those things that, you know, when it's your car and you know that it's there, it bugs you, but these runs are what I really want to take care of. So this one is pretty bad right here. I've got this one right here that is probably the worst, and it goes all the way over right over here. And then I've got one on the side over here that's really small. And there's actually one more underneath on this side over here. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the disclaimer out there that I am not an expert painter. I'm just another YouTuber who watches YouTube videos and I like to learn. I have done sanding and wet sanding before to get clear coat runs out, but I'm not an expert on it. I'm gonna go ahead and put the aprons in the car to save them for later, and then I'm gonna get the front lip off of here and I'm gonna get it mounted up on the parts holder, and I'll let you know what my game plan is. Aprons are in the back seat. I've got the front lip mounted up here, and then I've got everything that I'm going to use over here. First thing is something that I've actually never used before. It's a razor blade. Supposedly this will actually knock the drip down much faster, and then you can move on to your sandpaper. I've got some tape. What I'm going to use this for is for the razor blade, just to create a little bit of a barrier. I'm going to tape both sides so that just the center section has the blade sticking out. And then from there, I've got this toll cut system. I found this on another channel. It's called Paint Society. Really cool painting channel. But they come in all different grits, so it's K800 all the way up to K3000. But you have all these little cards of the different types of sandpaper, and then they go on these little rubber sanding blocks. If you saw my last video, I did use this one right here to sand out an imperfection in the plastic when I had the primer on there. I did go ahead and get my long sheets out. I'm not sure if I'll use these yet, but these are P2000, so I'll use these if I have to do any bigger areas with the bigger sanding block. I've got some water over here to do the wet sanding with, and then once I actually knock the runs down, I've got some compound and some polish to finish it up with. What I'm going to do with this first is start with the smaller ones. So here's the one on the underside, and then this other smaller one over here on this side. I'm going to start with those just to kind of play around with it and practice with, and then once I get those sanded down, I'll move on to the bigger ones up here. finished with the first two little spots. So this one actually came out really good over here on the side. You can still make out just a little bit right here. So I'm going to get some finer grit sandpaper and just kind of go back over it again and then hit it with the compound and polish again. And then this side over here, this is where I started. So you can still see it. When I went to open up the new polish, I realized that it was no good. It had some weird stuff inside of it and it was all runny. So I went up to Harbor Freight and I picked up this polish right here. It seems to work pretty good. As for the razor blade trick, I tried doing this and it does work. It actually does scrape it, but I'm just not a professional. So this was getting me a little nervous. So I did just switch over to the block and the little sanding pads. What I did is just use the lowest grade sandpaper that they had. So it's a K800 and I just used this to knock down all of the runs. I'm gonna leave this one alone for now. I will finish it up later and then I'm gonna go ahead and continue on with the K800 and try to knock all of these runs off. I just finished up. I finished all 3 runs, so I did have one issue. This center section right here came out perfect. The runs are completely gone. Everything's polished out very nicely. And then on this one, the worst run, I got all of it taken care of except for right in here. So you can see there's just a couple of little lines. And then I had one burn through right here, which really sucks. But I'm not gonna respray the whole thing just for that one little spot. This one looks awesome over here. This one looks awesome over here. And then this is at least 80 to 90% better. As you saw, I've just been using a towel and been doing the compound and polish by hand, but I did order a little attachment for my drill. So it should be in tomorrow. And that's what I'm gonna use to try to polish this stuff a little bit better. And for now, I can go ahead and start working on the aprons. The aprons should be much easier than the front lip. I did not have any runs on these at all. I did get quite a few little dirt and dust nibs. I don't know if you can kind of see them in there, but those should be really easy to take out. Strangely enough, I got a ton of runs obviously on the front lip, but I did not get any dirt and dust nibs. I did clean a lot around the area in between coats and in between the base and the clear, which I did not do that with the apron. I didn't think there was that much dust on the ground, but I guess there was. So next time I will be sure to do a lot more cleaning. I'm going to be doing the same thing that I did with the front lip on the runs. I'll be using the little toll cut system. So for these dirt and dust nibs, I'll probably be using K1500 or K2000, and I'll just sand those out, and then I'll use the compound and polish to shine them up. finished up getting the nibs out of the aprons. I started off with the K2000, but it just wasn't cutting like I wanted it to, so I switched over to the K1200, and then after I went over all the little nibs, I went back over it with the P2000. I just cut it into a couple little strips and then used my block. These little blocks are awesome. They really are great for just little tight corners and small pieces like this. Polisher attachment for the drill came in the mail today, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing hooked up and see how well it works to get these 2000 grit scratches polished out. Aprons are all polished up. It's actually been a couple of days. I gave you a little side-by-side comparison of that one when it was just sanded with the 2000 grit compared to this one when it was all polished. But I did finish getting that one all compound and polished up off camera. If you look really close there, there's a couple little dimples where I had a couple of little fish eyes, but not noticeable at all. These are little small pieces that sit on the back, but they came out great. Everything is nice and shiny. But yeah, zero issues with the aprons at all. Like I said, it's been a couple of days and I've had a little bit of time to sleep on this. I originally was just going to let this slide and I was not going to do anything else. I was just going to polish all of these little spots up and leave that one spot that I burned through alone. I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I know that this is going to bug me later on and I will be much happier if I do it the right way. So I'm not going to do it in this video, but probably in the next one I am going to sand all of this down. I'll get the rest of it scuffed up and then I will respray my base over that and then re-clear the whole thing. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to leave the front lip alone and then I'm going to finish getting the rear aprons installed. Here is the hardware that it came with. So a bunch of bolts, nuts, and then some washers, and then it came with some double-sided tape. These are replica aprons, so they're not the actual OEM ones, so they don't have any pre-drilled holes on here. I've heard of people having issues with the little tip right here kind of sticking out there on the end. I've heard of people putting a screw in there. I saw one video of it. I thought it looked like complete crap, so I'm really going to avoid doing that. One thing that I am going to try, like I did with my front lip, because I had that little crease right there, is I'm going to heat up the plastic and kind of try to mold it to the back bumper back here. See if it won't kind of hold a more permanent shape so that it fits a little bit better. I'm going to get the back bumper cleaned off really good. It's really dirty, really dirty, so I'll use some soapy water and then some isopropyl alcohol as a degreaser, and then I'll get this double-sided tape on the back of here, get it heated up, kind of mold it how I want it, and then get everything mounted up, and then I'll kind of let you know what I did when I'm done. Both aprons are mounted up with just the double-sided tape for now. As far as these little back corners over here, you saw what I did. I heated them up really, really good with the heat gun so I could kind of mold that plastic to bend like that. So hopefully the double-sided tape will not pull from there and it will stay like that. It seems to be holding really, really well right now. Now that I've got them mounted on there, I'm going to get the hardware on. So I do have to drill the holes. I will have to drill a hole here, and then a washer and nut and bolt will go right here. So I did have to take this little splash guard out for one of the pumps back there. So this nut I left on, but that one I took out, and then I should be able to get a nut behind here to get that bolt on. The aprons actually came with 5 nuts, bolts, and washers, and I think there's 4 that are supposed to go on the underside, but from what I've been seeing, most people just put 2 on the underside that goes right up in there, and then they just put the 1 right here, like I said. I'm gonna get those holes drilled and get the hardware on there, and then these rear aprons will be complete. Aprons are fully installed, so I did things a little bit differently. So I did end up using one of the bolts, washers, and the nuts for the front right here. But then on the bottom down here, I just used 2 self-tapping screws. It was really difficult to get behind there to get a nut on. These are much smaller holes that I had to drill instead of making big giant holes for those bolts. From what I've read online, these things used to come with self-tappers for the bottom. That may or may not be true, but they worked out great. Here's the other side over here. So bolt in the front and then the self-tappers on the bottom. The outsides are very dirty right now, but I'm not going to wash it just yet. I want to let the glue on that double-sided tape cure on the car first. It's the next day. I went ahead and put the little splash guard back here, and then I put the wheels back on. The glue is nice and dry now, so I just went ahead and cleaned everything off with some soapy water. I'm going to pull the car out in the driveway and just get a better look at them in the sunlight. Here they are out in the sunlight. Color match turned out really, really nice. These things add a completely different look to the car. Extremely, extremely happy with how these turned out. A few things to note if you are doing this yourself. If you end up getting the replica aprons like I did off of eBay, go ahead and ditch the double-sided tape that they gave you. This stuff is complete crap. And then pick up some 3M double-sided tape. This is actually the 3M molding tape, but it works absolutely perfect for these. Second thing to note is when you do put the tape on there, you want to put it close to the top, but you don't want it right at the top, because this is why this one little section is kind of bulging out. I put it just a little too close to the top there. So you want it close enough to the top so that it still touches the other plastic on the bumper, but you don't want it too close to the top that it's going to raise this edge right here. And the last thing, I already said it already, but do what I did on these corners. Heat the plastic up really good, kind of bend it so that you can pre-mold it to this shape. And then once you put the double-sided tape on there, hold this down for a while. You really want to make sure that this corner sticks good. It kind of sucks. I sat there and probably held it for 10 to 15 minutes. And then the last thing that I did is I went back over this after I got it on there with the heat gun again, just made sure it was nice and hot, and then held that piece right there good. And then both sides have held on really, really nice. As far as the front lip goes, like I said, I'm going to be doing this in the next video. Disappointing that I couldn't get both pieces completely on the car, but instead of half-assing it and leaving this the way that it is, I am going to touch up the base on there, and then I will respray this whole thing with the clear. Make sure it looks really good before it goes on the car. If you like the video, please hit that like button. If this helped you out with your apron install in any way, definitely hit that like button. If you want to see the front lip get resprayed and go on the Evo, hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys next time.